Hello everyone, welcome back to Nicholas's Cars. This is not the usual video today because today we are talking about the EPA and some of their new rules and potential new rules, at least, and some things that would be pretty destructive for the car world if they did it. So the EPA said that, essentially, let me just get into it. The EPA said that street vehicles, cars, trucks, and motorcycles cannot be converted into race cars, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, obviously, but and also the EPA says that they want to do a lot more enforcement against high performance parts, like superchargers, tuners, and exhaust systems, turbochargers, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know whether wheels and tires or that kind of stuff applies to it, but that would be even worse if it applied to them. But anyway, just looking at where this is now, it's kind of a big deal because they essentially say that, let me just read this part, the RPM Act reverses the EPA's interpretation that the Clean Air Act does not allow a motor vehicle designed for street use, including a car, truck, or motorcycle, to be converted to a dedicated race car. This American tradition was unquestioned for nearly 50 years until 2015, when the EPA took the position that converted vehicles must remain emissions compliant, even though they are no longer driven on public streets or highways. Although the EPA did not finalize the proposed rule, the agency still maintains the practice of modifying the emission system of a motor vehicle for the purpose of converting it for racing is illegal. Manufacturing, selling, and selling race parts for the converted vehicle will also be a violation. The EPA has also announced that enforcement against high-performance parts, including superchargers, tuners, and exhaust systems, is a top priority. So what does this mean? That means essentially it could make race cars and racing, like, I don't know about major racing such as NASCAR and IndyCar would be affected, but it could make smaller racing when you think about it, like drift competitions and all that kind of stuff, and even track day cars and stuff. Like, I'm sure you've definitely seen Porsche Caymans and Mazda Miatas that have been modified to make like race cars, essentially track cars. Those would probably be outlawed, and cars like superchargers, tuners, and exhaust systems, which is a big deal if they outlaw those, because if you get ticketed for driving around the car that has a supercharger on it, that's kind of a big deal because there are a lot of shops and there are a lot of tuners and there are a lot of people who have these kind of cars, modified cars, and I like cars that have been tuned like that. But I think the EPA says that because that could be like essentially outlawed, which was a big deal because shops like Hennessy and there are a lot of other shops like them, but just saying ones like Hennessy and stuff would essentially might have to go out of business because they would not be able to tune cars anymore. They'd be able to build cars like the Hennessy Venom F5, but that's all their business could be. They wouldn't essentially be able to tune cars because those parts would be effectively illegal. At least this is the way I understand it. That may not be a big deal about it, but I would say that I think the EPA, because it's the EPA, is doing this from an emissions standpoint, which is interesting because I don't think that race cars make a big deal of emissions. I say all the race cars in the world still don't outnumber all the Toyota Corollas in the world of emissions. I'm just guessing that. There are a lot of... and the electrification thing is certainly happening, and no one seems to really be against it, at least in the car companies. No, I'm not the biggest fan of electric cars, but this is kind of a disappointing thing because it's at least if you consider in the concept of like hot rodding or whatever, it's a big thing here in America, and it would be pretty sad if they got rid of that. But and also there are a lot of people who own cars. I'm not sure that are modified, so I'm not sure how the government will exactly do this or like confiscate these cars. I don't know what their plan is for this act or whatever, for what they're planning to do. So I'm not sure how they enforce it. And another point I have to say about this is that I don't know why more people are not talking about this, because this seems like it would be a very big deal. Essentially the end of small racing. I don't know, it might even be the end of big racing in some ways. So I don't know why this is not being talked about more, and that's really confusing to me. It's really confusing because I have seen so far, maybe this has my suspicion that potentially maybe this isn't blown up as big as it could be, and maybe this is being blown up a bit more. I doubt that, but I also have my I'm a bit skeptical still. But I mean, I'm not necessarily skeptical because the people I've heard about this are people I trust, but I still don't know if it really is bad as it sounds, because it does sound quite bad. But I don't know why not more people have issued statements on that. I've seen 2 or 3 YouTubers do it, and a few people have talked about it, and they pinned comments or stuff like that. But I think people should make videos about it because I think it's a bigger deal than just one comment. So I'm surprised though that more people have a bigger following. Even I only have like 14 followers at the time I filmed this video, but I'm surprised that like people who have much bigger followings than me have not made a statement about it. If you have followings of any kind with cars or whatever, and you should say something about it and encourage your fans and stuff to write stuff to Congress and everything, because it also says here that they want to pass an act called the RPM Act, which would essentially outlaw all this stuff and would essentially outlaw the outlawing and would like and would make it still be legal to make race cars out of road cars, which makes a lot of sense to me but I don't know whether that will pass or whatever, but I certainly do hope it does pass. It's bipartisan, so I hope both parties vote for it. But yes, it is disappointing, at least, that this is being done. Even though I do definitely think tuner cars are a big thing. I mean, especially over here is a big deal. Like I think it's kind of a big thing all over the world. But in America, racing is like a big American pastime, you would say, and hot rods and modifications and stuff. It's definitely important, and I don't know. And if this does happen, it'd be pretty devastating, because think of all the cars that are modified or tuned or built for race cars. I don't know what the government will do, what they'll do to them. I really hope it doesn't get to that, because I don't want because it wouldn't exactly work out well with the government doing that. But I do hope that they can figure out some way, because if this was like I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but if this was about crash safety or something, I would be willing to listen to their point, because crash safety and road safety is a big thing that affects a lot of people. But emissions, there's a lot of debate about whether emissions emissions from cars is a big problem and stuff. So because if it was about all cars, maybe it would be different, but it's about race cars and stuff and tuner cars, and there aren't that many of those compared to just normal cars. So I don't think it's as big a problem as it's being the EPA saying it is. But anyway, it's pretty disappointing. I think of all the cars. Yeah, it's just funny to think of all the thousands upon thousands of cars that are modified. I don't know what will happen to them. I don't know what will happen to their owners and stuff, because some of the YouTube videos I've seen, some people are saying that they are modified cars. If the government takes them away or does whatever they want to do with them, that would essentially be the end of their channel or business or shop or whatever, and that could be a big deal. So I'm surprised that not many more people have talked about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just disappointing. I hope it doesn't. I hope the government doesn't go ahead and do this. But hopefully they do pass the act so it doesn't happen. And I just think this is just something that everyone can agree on, that race cars shouldn't be made illegal because of that. Because I don't know what impact this has on big racing like Formula 1 and stuff. But even though there's only one Formula 1 race here, but yeah, it's just strange that I think race cars. It seems like purpose-built race cars are fine, but street car track cars like a Club Racer Miata type car aren't allowed. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time, so. I hope you got some interesting information out of this video. So, like I was saying, if you do have a following of any kind, please tell your followers and stuff about it, and make a video about it or whatever. And email your Congress people and stuff and senators and tell them to pass this act. So hopefully it does go true. And yeah, and we should also go on other people's pages and stuff too, who have bigger following than I did, people like I do, and tell them to make a statement about it too, because it's definitely a big deal. Anyway, like I was saying, I have talked for a while, so that's the end of this video, and I will see you next time.